Well, so the issue of violent clashes between students, especially in the senior high schools, has become one too many, hasn't it? We've seen a number of them happening in the past few weeks or so. And now we are at Wager, where this is happening, where Jude Duncan is reporting for us from. So we brought in someone who understands the sector. We'll talk about education and also focus on a number of things he's been focused on in his work in Parliament. He's the Asin South Member of Parliament. He was until recently Deputy Minister for Education in the Akufo-Addo government. Reverend Ntim Fordjour is my guest on CNR. You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
How are you doing?
Oh, I'm great. I'm excited to be on your show.
It's exciting to see you too, you know, as one of the few surviving members from Central Region. Yeah. When they were destroying everybody, the wind didn't touch you. Congratulations.
Yeah, by the grace of God, I thank you. And I mean, I'm very, very grateful to my good people as in South who, when even the mighty were falling, saw the confidence to be reposed in me again. So I'm deeply grateful to God and to my people. We'll
talk about the free SHS policy. It's a big deal. President Mahama even spoke about it at the State of the Nation address. But before then, what do you make of what we are seeing in the schools, and how do you think it can be dealt with?
Yeah, indiscipline is a matter that has to be really dealt with. In one aspect, we instituted the deans of discipline in various schools who had to be coordinating on various blocks in various dormitories, classrooms, various people who are the go-to people to ensure that we tackle indiscipline from the preventive, from the counseling aspect, and also surveillance. You know, in various schools, we know the troublemakers. And so it is expected that heads of schools and senior housemasters, heads of departments keep their eye on them and regularly check them, counsel them, and ensure, because a very calm person is not likely to be the one that may foment trouble. It manifests individual to individual, and then it also manifests in groups. And in this particular instance, you look at the destruction to property, harm to people. It's not something we should be recounting going forward. I look forward to a time when we'll be able to nip all this in the bud. But comprehensively, parents also have a role to play, because it takes parents and teachers together to have that kind of formation for our learners. And so that collaboration between them will ensure that we root out the menace of indiscipline from our schools.
You are a Reverend Minister. The Bible says, spare the rod and spoil the child. There are people who say that because we've taken the rod out of the classroom, which is the discipline, the lashing, it has made students very disrespectful, and there's no way to rein them in. I don't know what's your view. Should we go to sparing, should we not spare the rod, or there's a better way to deal with it and still spare the rod?
Yes, the role of corporal punishment in dealing with discipline in a very fundamental traditional sense, I think that given the complexities of the kind of youth we have, that may not be assertive enough in addressing the challenge. So there's a reason why we've taken that out from the administration of discipline in our schools. I also think that given the era of social media and cameras and media, we're able to bring these incidents of indiscipline to the fore very quickly, which is good, so that it gives us the opportunity to nib it in the bud. But in the past, I'm sure during our time in school, we didn't have social media, phones, cameras, and media as you know, widespread as we have it today. And so many incidents may have happened in schools that may not be reported to the center. And so that may not even give us a very fair idea to be able to comparatively compare the spate of indiscipline that existed in some era in the past and now. But be that as it may, given our growing population, it is important that we all have a consensus on what works. The Dean, I believe strongly that the Dean of Discipline initiative we introduce, if they are going to augment it and implement it, it will largely help solve the problem.
Let's talk about free senior high school. It's one of the biggest policies in our education space in a long time. The current government set up a national education forum to deal with education generally, but more emphasis on free senior high school. The stakeholders there are proposing that only day students benefit from the free senior high school. They're also saying that students in boarding school should cover their own feeding and accommodation costs. What do you make of that?
I have always stated right at the outset my disagreement with the stakeholder consultation and the timing. I'm not against the principle of stakeholder consultation, because we did it every year, 1 week in every November, National Education Week, we called it, from 2018 to 2024, where wider array of stakeholders were put together to critique and to evaluate our programs and policies. So I'm not against, but in a situation where you want to evade the fidelity of social contract, key promises and principles you put forth, for which the good people of Ghana gave you 6.3 million votes, particularly relating to education sector, it is expected that you set it in motion. But then right at the outset, you form a National Education Forum and say that what they bring to you is what you're going to implement, you're not going to shelve it. And then in one breath you say, well, I'm going to continue free SHS. But what is free SHS? The main component of free SHS that make it truly free SHS is the burden component, the burden that is off the back of parents, and the government pays for them to be able to go in there, the child of the poor, the child of the rich, all having that barrier, socioeconomic barrier, removed. But now you are, given strong indication from, I've been following discussions and key proposals at the National Education Forum, and all they say is that it's possible that some way, somehow, the cost burden has to be reduced. And we cannot also do so by reducing the number of students accessing it, but the pressure on the budget has to be reduced, and therefore we need to find a way of getting boarding fees paid by student. If boarding fee is going to be paid by student, which is about 70% of the entire cost, we are going to sack several hundreds of thousands of children who would not have the wherewithal to afford. They're also talking about targeting, meaning that some people they deem as rich should pay, and those who can genuinely not afford should be supported.
But there's a saying that when the lead frog falls in a pit, the ones behind should leap with caution. You are the lead frog. You're falling in a pit as far as Free Senior High School is concerned. It is only reasonable that the people behind you, this new government, act with caution and precaution. You had a huge burden dealing with free SHS, so you introduced double track. You had issues with feeding and all of those things. They have learned from you, and they think, no, taking care of boarding is too excessive. Let's take it off. Is that not a smart thing?
You take boarding off, free SHS is killed. Free SHS is not free SHS. They can find another name for it. So they should eat the humble pie to say, well, we cannot continue with free SHS in the shape and form we have come to meet it. And therefore, we are going to cancel it. And this is our alternative proposal. But not under the guise that, oh, free SHS is still going to run, but you're going to pay A, B, C, and D. That is not free SHS. We were able to sustain free SHS for 8 years. However, the rating the public will give it, we were able to finance free SHS averagely 2.3 billion cedis every year to ensure that nearly 3.5 million students get in there and have access to it. So if you've come in and you give clear promises that you are even going to expand to include the private sector, and so knowing very well the fiscal pressure and demands on free SHS, you still went ahead and promised that you will expand. We expect you to deliver. Okay. GIS is a private school, Alpha Beta, Christian High, Tama International, all of them are private. You said Ideal College, St. Andrews SHS. So we expect you to stay true to your promises and then make all of them free. Okay. Don't come and complain about cost. But in terms of feeding, they had a brilliant alternative, and we want them to go ahead with it. They say that we will transfer 100% feeding fee to the headmasters to do their own shopping.
We want to see how that goes.
We did only 30%, and then buffer stock did 70%. We want to see how that plays out. So they should stay focused and stay true to their promises and deliver on free SHS. No cancellation will be tolerated.
This is ChannelOne.